And it looks like Hampton Roads is getting another snow day. It won't be a blizzard, but it could still be a dangerous drive.
That's right, Jeff. What is the timing of the snow and what are we looking at in terms of accumulation?
Well, the timing is going to be very different from inland areas to coastal spots and then even later once you get down into North Carolina. Speaking of North Carolina, I want to start with that because right now it is under freezing and we have 1/4 mile visibility down at Elizabeth City. What we call freezing fog. Freezing fog, a lot like freezing rain. It coats the bridges and the overpasses and stuff. So if you're watching from some of those areas, be very, very careful in the morning. At least you're going to have to scrape some stuff off your windshield in terms of a little bit of an ice cover. Right now, there's nothing here locally. Already the first little, sort of advanced guard, if you will, of the storm starting to show up out in western parts of the state. Not reaching the ground yet where you can see this, lightest color there. You get up here into the darker areas and it's probably reaching the ground. But even then, that is not the main part of the system. That's sort of the advanced little area, as I mentioned. This is the main front, and we're still going to have to wait a long time for that to get here. So right now, we've gone back up a degree. We're at 32. We had been down to 31. No wind to speak of, falling barometric pressure. So readings around the region staying right at freezing. We're going to keep some of that very, very light and scattered snowfall out in central Virginia during the overnight. And by tomorrow, maybe a flurry, or a couple of isolated light snow areas, but really for the most part, we think it's still west of Richmond at that point. And then as we go a little bit later into the morning, maybe a few flurries, but not anything steady or heavy moving across maybe parts of the peninsula. It's going to take a while, we think, to get here, and it might even start as a little bit of a brief mix. Afternoon is the most likely start time. And as for amounts, 1 to 2, we're thinking still for most of our area. You get back inland, 2 to 4, with even 3 to 6 in a little small area down near Raleigh, Durham, up toward the state line. But I have a feeling, I mentioned it yesterday, that there's going to be a storm that strengthens offshore. We could see some isolated 3-inch amounts. I'm starting to think the best chance of those will be maybe even Outer Banks. So we'll keep an eye on that. But right now, look for a relatively small storm that causes some relatively big problems.
All right, Jeff, of the 7 cities, Virginia Beach and Hampton Public Schools are waiting until tomorrow morning to decide about closing. The other 5 districts are already closed. Many other schools in the area have also canceled classes or will have early dismissals. The list is on your screen right now, and the information is also continuously updated on our website.
With that snow headed our way, local cities are already gearing up to hit the streets. The cities of Chesapeake and Norfolk say they are keeping an eye on the forecast and they're ready to respond if necessary. Chanuher has more on the plans for tomorrow.
The snow from the last storm just cleared out, but with more expected to move through our area, cities say they're ready to move when necessary. Just when Hampton Roads seemed clear of snow, another round is set to move in, causing Norfolk to get ready.
We're prepared. We have our salt and sand. We've replenished all of it, and we're ready to go to get out there as soon as we see some snow falling, if necessary.
The city has mobilized its 24 crews, which means they'll hit the road tomorrow. They're brining the bridges and overpasses and then moving to primary roads downtown, then moving to inner streets in that area.
No more than 2 inches on the ground before we start plowing. The 2 inches is our mark, which actually sets us into a plow mode.
That rule also applies over in Chesapeake, where crews are also getting ready for the snow and prioritizing primary and emergency routes.
Given the forecast, if we only get 1 inch of snow, you probably won't see the plows on the road. You'll see our sand and salt spreaders. They'll be out. Generally, we won't plow until we get at least 2 inches of snow.
While always ready, these cities say the last snowstorm was unique because of the amount that accumulated and the cold temperatures that came after.
The lesson learned there is it would really make sense to bring in some additional contract support. We did have some of that for the last event, but to have additional contract resources at our disposal going forward.
In Norfolk, Chanuher, 13 News Now.
VDOT crews tell 13 News Now they are getting ready for round 2, even though they've run out of money. VDOT officials say they've spent the entire Hampton Road snow and ice budget on the last storm. That's about $5 million. We get the smallest amount of the 9 districts in Virginia because we don't normally get a lot of snow. VDOT says crews still will pre-treat and plow the roads as needed. They'll get the money from budgets in other parts of the state.
If there were more storms still this season, There may be other districts in the state that aren't using their snow removal budget. We could perhaps tap into the statewide.
For now, VDOT is pulling money from the maintenance budget. That includes things like pothole repairs, cutting grass, and litter pickup.
13 News Now will have live team coverage tomorrow when the snow starts to fall. Tune in for our special coverage in the morning and the afternoon. We will have updates on road conditions and any other issues you may need to know about to stay safe.
City of Virginia Beach is being sued tonight for $140 million. Developer Mid-Atlantic Arena LLC is claiming there was a breach of contract.
The developer was all set to build a brand new state-of-the-art arena, but that deal fell through at the last minute.
Robert Boyd talked to the mayor about the lawsuit.
Well, the developer says the city pulled the rug out from underneath them. They say they were given a deadline to secure a construction loan, which they say they met just in time, but still, Virginia Beach is refusing to work with them. Over the past 4.5 years, developer Mid-Atlantic Arena LLC has been partnering with the city of Virginia Beach to build an 18,000-seat arena at the oceanfront. They were given a deadline of midnight on November 7th, 2017 to close on a $150 million construction loan. It was the final hours leading up to that deadline where the developer and Mayor Will Sessoms have differing opinions. Mid-Atlantic Arena LLC issued this statement. We understood that deadline, and at 10:36 p.m., J.P. Morgan confirmed in writing that the loan was closed. The city sent us a letter very first thing in the morning on November 8th, stating the contract with MAA was terminated.
I assure you the city of Virginia Beach has not done anything to breach a contract.
Mayor Sessoms says the developer didn't dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and it didn't help that they pushed the deadline to the final minutes.
I would sit back and say to you that I don't see where that would be to their benefit.
The developer is now suing the city for $140 million. Mid-Atlantic Arena LLC greatly desired to bring an arena to Virginia Beach, not a lawsuit. But since that is now impossible, we have no choice but to ask the courts to help us recover our significant investment, as well as lost revenue, and rebuild our standing, which has been considerably impaired by the city's breach of contract.
Very disappointed to see it, but we will evaluate it and feel very confident that we'll be able to defend it and we will win.
Despite this lawsuit, Mayor Sessoms says he would still like to see an arena built in Virginia Beach at some point in the future. We just have to assume it'll probably be with a different developer. In Virginia Beach, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
For fallout from those two deadly collisions involving Navy ships in Southeast Asia, the Navy is filing negligent homicide charges against the commanders of the USS Fitzgerald and the John S. McCain. Charges against several lower-ranking officers were also announced. The decision to file charges came after further review of last year's collisions. The Fitzgerald collided with a commercial vessel off of Japan, killing 7 sailors. Then a few months later, 10 sailors were killed when the McCain collided with an oil tanker in Southeast Asia.
President Trump is in excellent health. That is according to the White House doctor. The president underwent a physical last Friday. Today, Navy doctor Ronnie Jackson gave details about the checkup, saying he expects President Trump will remain healthy for the rest of his presidency. The doctor also says the president asked for a cognitive test and got a perfect score.
The president did exceedingly well on it, so that was not driven at all by any clinical concerns I have. It was driven by the president's wishes, and he did well on it.
The doctor describes the president as very sharp and very articulate. He believes President Trump asked for the cognitive screening in response to recent criticism that he is mentally unfit for office.